I think it's really important that we get super curious. We need to understand what AI is and what it is not and engage with it in the same way they are. If we get too afraid of it and we don't want to get involved in it, that's when the kids are going to know more than us and they're going to be able to navigate around it. Then that's when the safety issues come into play. Because if I can stay curious about it, then I can help my student and my child stay safe.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast, your trusted source for real-world tactics that keep students safe and help them to shine online. I'm your host, Josh Ochs. Each week, I sit down with K-12 superintendents, district leaders, and community voices who are shaping digital safety. We discuss wins, struggles, and strategies used to guide students so they can be safe and successful online. Now let's get back to the conversation.
Hi, I'm Jessica Medrano. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services for secondary schools in the Norwalk-La Mirada Unified School District. We are located in Norwalk and La Mirada in Southern California, in Los Angeles County.
So great to have you here for lots of reasons. First of all, you're in our backyard here in Southern California. There's a heat wave today for all of our audience members, and you're probably watching this maybe a couple months later going, I wish there was a heat wave. But I'm excited because Southern California, a great place to grow up, but also you started your career as a teacher, bilingual. Walk us through, what did you use to teach students? And also, what type of technology was just getting started when you were doing that?
Yeah, I taught high school Spanish. That was where I started my career. At the time, cell phones were starting to get into our hands. We started text messaging. At the time, Google Translate came out, and that was very, we use it a lot as adults, but students found ways to use it and integrate it into their assignments. So at the time, really teaching students how to use those tools to learn and to use it. Like, for example, the Google Translate tool, how to use that to help you with assignments, but not that be the only thing you're using for the assignment.
We're going to hit on that here today for all of our audience members. I'm so excited to have the doctor here today because, as all of our audience members know, we're going to dive into some safety tips first about how to keep kids safe. Then we're going to move into some parent engagement tips. How do we partner with parents and what tips can we give parents to develop a great relationship with their kiddos? And then last, we're going to get some dialogue starters from the doctor about how to manage screen time and too much screen time. We're also going to talk a little bit about AI if we get a chance. And at the very end, we're going to hit rapid fire mode and get some pro tips there. So, Doctor, I want to start with a little bit of a story time to show you what we've learned over the last 220 episodes where we've interviewed superintendents and assistant superintendents in 45 plus states. We've had these conversations and we've heard a consistent set of trends. Every community is different, but they've all got these devices that every kid seems to get. So here's what we're hearing. We're hearing that students are growing up in a digital world filled with powerful technology, AI, and social media. And not every community is like this, but many are saying that the kiddos are lacking the maturity and the guidance to use it safely in some case. And the result can be more student absences, lower focus, rising cyberbullying, declining self-esteem, and AI misuse in the classroom. And in addition, at the same time, parents are trying to raise good kids in a world they didn't grow up in. A world where now tech is moving faster than safety policies. Teens know how to, in a clever way, hide apps and online behavior, and safety lessons usually come after a crisis. Doctor, are there any other trends on this topic that you have seen so we can alert other school districts before they see them?
I would say that I think it's really important to always approach this as a learner. Yes, the world we are working in now, the world we're teaching in is very different than the world that, we went to school in, and as educators, we base a lot on what we grew up with. But it's really important to remember that, the purpose of schooling is to get kids ready to participate fully in society. And part of that is learning how to use these safety tools. Like I talked a little bit about Google Translate and in the Spanish classroom. Yes, we can use Google Translate to help us, but when you're learning a language, there's so much context that goes into what we want to translate. And it's the same with AI, the same with social media, and the same with even seeing media and interpreting that. I think it's really important to know that all of these pieces aren't going to go away. It's not something we're going to go backwards and begin using a rotary phone again. We are moving forward, and we have to embrace those tools as learners, both as educators. And then on top of that, teach students how to use those tools.
I like that. For our audience, you know that if I'm looking down, I'm taking notes. I'm learning from the doctor alongside you because we want to be the best at keeping kiddos safe so they can be successful someday. I love that, approaching it as a learner. And I think that also, agree or disagree with me, I think it also helps us get into the mindset of a kiddo or the teen so that we can better understand why they might react, why they might try and go around learning the vocab in Espanol and instead try and cheat. How do we make it more exciting, right? Are there any ways, any pro tips for our, whether they're district leaders or parents or guardians or anyone in between, any pro tips you've learned in your journey working with kids that has been like a really good pinpoint where you say, if I approach it as a learner, I either make it more exciting or I use less jargon? Or are there any really good tips that you found that really connect with kiddos?
I would just say I have really young kids. My daughters are in kindergarten and second grade, and they are super curious, right? So I think it's really important that we get super curious. We need to understand what AI is and what it is not. To just kind of keep on the surface, it's same with social media. We have to get super curious about what it is and engage with it in the same way they are. They're so interested in understanding things, and yes, they will skip over things, but if we embrace it and we get curious as learners in it as well, I think that would be my pro tip. And the different things that I have gone through in my career when I've had to learn something completely new, a new level or a new program, I always approach it as if I'm like the student or the teacher so that I can learn it as much as possible. And I think the same applies. If we get too afraid of it and we don't want to get involved in it, that's when the kids are going to know more than us. They might still know more than us, but they're going to know even more and they're going to be able to navigate around it. And then that's when the safety issues come into play. Because if I can stay curious about it, then I can help my student and my child stay safe.
I love that. Stay curious. I wrote that as well. And then also approach it as a learner. Love it. Okay. For all of our audience members, you know that we're reaching millions of people a year in our live weekly events. Parents ask us these themes, and I want to share this on this broadcast with everyone. Parents ask us, Josh, what advice would you give a student to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger? Well, rather than the doctor and I answering this, let's hear from a student about how she might help a friend recognize these red flags of a stranger.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all the little details about what they do and who they are, and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start, if they feel a sense of being uncomfortable or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's a major red flag.
Parents, don't forget that we have weekly live parent events and replays that teach on a bunch of topics. I'm going to get to them in a sec. We have real teens that teach the program very different. Parents from all over the country. Earlier this week, we had 900 people register for a Tuesday night, and they said they loved that there were real teens in the program because they brought their teens to the program, and there was a lot less eye rolling. We also have a premium parent newsletter. And parents, I want to show you, don't miss out on some of these next life-saving programs. We have the very best app guides. If your kids are begging for TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, Netflix, WhatsApp, and 450 more. And we're not bilingual. We're in 12 languages. We have English, Espanol, Mandarin, and 9 other languages. No one is ever left behind. And in addition, these live events, again, parents, we're here for you. We've got AI for student success. We've got it in Espanol natively. So we'll be speaking in that native language and answering questions, which is so much fun. And then AI for student success, if you missed it. We have replays. We have giveaways. We're also hitting next month, Sneaky Ways. Video apps keeps teens watching, all kinds of different things. We hope that you'll join us on that so that we can protect your family. And also, if you come, we do giveaways every single week. Okay, Doctor, we're back to you. In addition to these 220 conversations we've had with your peers nationwide, 45 plus states. So grateful for everybody chatting with us and teaching us. We've heard from those communities, and we've heard that many parents are feeling overwhelmed at times trying to keep up with fast moving online trends and digital safety risks. And these clever entrepreneurs, the students, are finding these clever ways to increase their screen time and bend the rules, especially when the expectations at back to school differ significantly from those at home. And coming off summer where there's probably a lot of screen time. Now, doctor, I want to hear from you. What trends or pain points are you seeing when it comes to parent engagement? And where do you feel families might be struggling the most to stay informed and connected?
Yeah, engaging parents is really, really important to me. First and foremost, I think that we need to see working parents as an asset to our district rather than disengaged. Just because a parent is not able to show up at an in person meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning doesn't mean they don't care. And I think for me, it's always framing it in that way to make sure we understand that parents, they want to be involved. For me, I have, like I mentioned, I have two young children. And so I'm always connecting with my child's teachers using the apps that we have to stay engaged. But I think our schools struggle because oftentimes we're doing things in person and trying to get them there. But we have so many tools. I see schools really getting creative with online meetings using Zoom or other platforms so that parents can engage and then posting the video later. And I think getting creative with those pieces and also seeing those parents as assets in different ways is really important. And many of our schools are also using social media now. And that can be a way that we can engage parents because, of course, many of the parents coming up are parents that grew up with social media. So we're becoming more of those digital natives that are now parents. So I think using those tools is really important.
I like the grace you just gave everybody. You basically said just because they didn't show up doesn't mean that they don't care about their teacher, the school district, their school, the principal. They're busy. They might have one, maybe two jobs. They might be taking care of a lot of kiddos. They might, have a lot going on, which I think is very reasonable. What other pro tips would you have? Are there any ways that you're getting more students on campus or more parents on campus for parent engagement events rather than just the old way? Are there any new styles you're doing?
I've struggled with this a little bit because there's nothing I can think of that is anything groundbreaking. One thing I did when I was a principal, and this was many years ago, we had a rising freshman night. And I wanted to make sure because the transition from middle school to high school is one of the hardest. And I really wanted to make sure I had as many freshmen there as possible. We almost harassed parents about the evening so that they knew. We called them. We sent a postcard home. We talked to the kids. We just were relentless in our communication about the event because we wanted to make sure they were there. We had a huge turnout because it was so important that they're in person, because when you're transitioning to high school, you want to be on campus to see what the campus looks like. We did that, and that was very successful. I mean, of course, there was no rain that night. Like those are all factors that were at play as well. And then, of course, having an event that's engaging, providing food, having performances, like all those pieces that really can make it almost a community event, and providing food so the parents don't have to think about dinner, I think is huge. But I think being relentless in our communication to families about it so that they know it's so important, because there's many events on a school campus from elementary, middle to high school that are important. But if you have one that you're like, no, you really need to be here, then being, like I said, relentless and harassing about communication, I think was really helpful. And we got to connect with many families that night in person, which I think was really helpful.
For our audience, here's what I'm hearing from my Disney brand marketing background, a drip campaign. And doctor, you're so kind. You're thinking you're harassing them, but really you're just repeatedly telling them this is something that's important to your child's future, something important. So you probably had a bit of a drip campaign so that they got to see it and hear of it. And let's not forget, to our audience who are district leaders, principals, staff, assistant principals, parents, you're not competing with other communication with other classrooms. You're competing with Netflix. You're competing with social media. Your competitors are really just stealing the eyeballs and the attention. And they're more exciting, to be honest with you. A parent engagement night, no offense, doctor, you're exciting, but it's much easier to stay on the couch and watch Netflix or stay on the couch and watch something else, right? And so we're competing with that. I love that you said we provide pizza or food. I think that's great. Okay, let's dive into the rest. Love that. So parents, district leaders, drip campaigns, amazing. It may feel harassing, but if you really need parents to come, like the doctor said, it's a huge turnout. All right, so what I want to do for our audience right now is give you a teaser of one of our upcoming events that's been a huge hit. Every single month, we have a different topic. October's a huge anti-bullying month for us, maybe the biggest in the world. We're going to help a lot of people. This one's called Sneaky Ways Video Apps Keep Teens Watching. We understand the subtle ways video apps keep teens captivated with parents, and they'll learn strategies to help them balance screen time. One of the biggest questions we get every season that we host this big event, and there are replays on our site for any parents who missed it, Parents are often asking us, Josh, what are some tips to help my teen manage their screen time? And in fact, superintendents have told us, Josh, if we can just fix the screen addiction problem, all these other problems go away. It doesn't become a desirable device anymore. Well, again, rather than the doctor and I giving you tips here, let's hear from two awesome teenagers in our student internship program with tips on how they work with their parents to reset screen time.
I just try to hold myself accountable about how much time I'm spending, because you can get lost really easily. While you're doing it, you think 30-second videos, what's the harm in that? But then when you've launched 4 hours out of your day, you feel a lot of regret. Why would I spend 5 hours scrolling on this app before bed when I could have been getting more sleep or being more productive throughout my day? My mom, she always lets me know when I'm just dead scrolling on TikTok for hours. Like, she usually tells me how long it's been. You should probably get up and go do the things that you need to do. So besides holding yourself accountable, it's really helpful if you have a parent or someone that cares about you to hold you accountable for how much time you're losing on those video apps.
Some techniques I use to stop myself from getting sucked into social media is being very aware of why I'm on there, as well as understanding how it's addictive. Even though it can be fun to just sit on my phone and scroll and immerse myself in it, keeping in mind the things I need to do and setting aside the time to do that rather than falling into it like a trap.
All right. So many great tips directly from teens, parents, but we believe at smartsocial.com that there is no safety app to protect your kids other than a rich dialogue you have with your kiddos. That relationship that you have, even if they roll their eyes, you get 5 extra points for building that. To do that, one of the biggest key takeaways parents say is, I love the dialogue starters you gave me. It gave me inspiration. So parents, here's some questions you can ask your teenager to have an open conversation and help them evaluate the quality of their screen time. This will work for elementary, middle school, and high school. So the first one we're hearing is great. Is how do you feel after your screen time? Notice it's not a yes or no question. It's how do you feel, and get them to think. If they roll their eyes, you get 3 extra points just for asking. Does that app or activity make you feel stronger or weaker after an hour? Get them thinking, wait, what do you mean stronger? Well, after you're doing that for an hour, can you go out and mow the lawn or be more amazing on this task? Or do you feel less focused, happy, or relaxed? What screen time activities make you feel stronger? And now we're diving in. Well, it's when I'm on YouTube learning about music or cooking or this. Okay, let's dive into that. That's one of your interests. Cool. What activities make you feel focused and or relaxed? It might be reading a book. It might be something else, but this is opening your child up to better get to know them. Also find out what their interests are. And then last, how much time do you think is healthy? And this is where they're now going to go, whoa, I get to decide and tell you and give you feedback instead of nagging me. And all of a sudden it opens up a dialogue. Doctor, I'd love your feedback on this. What are we missing? And what dialogue starters have you used over the years to help parents connect with their teenagers?
So I feel I'm going to approach this from a parent perspective because that's what's fresh in my mind with my littles. They're very young. And of course, they want to be watching YouTube. They want to be on the iPad, or often they'll ask to use my phone. And number one, I keep remembering when I was a principal talking to students. I actually did focus groups with my students about use of cell phones. And one of the things the students told me was they like having boundaries because they know that the phones are distracting to them. So I keep remembering that with my little kids because having boundaries, I think, is really important. So even when they're little, I think that it's just being clear with them. Like, these questions, I'm going to maybe think about using these with my older daughter. But also what I try to do with them is talk about the other activities that we do that can be fun, but also then thinking about providing limits. Like, let's just watch one video and then we'll play something. So having something ready for them to do after is important. Because for me, I know that after they're watching TV or screen or anything, it changes their mood. And so I want to avoid that mood change. I want to keep their mood positive, but I know that they do like it and enjoy it. And so focusing those things on activities, and they know, they're like, no, Mom, this is a video that's educational. I'm learning something. So they know that I'm looking for that. So I'm glad that they see that, but also giving them those parameters and boundaries with it, I think, is really important.
I love that. For our audience, have something ready for them to do after screen time. Have that planned out, that transition, something exciting. That's great. Okay, we're moving into the next part of the program, rapid fire questions in 30 seconds or less. I'd love your answer to these. What can parents do to help their teens reset their screen time?
Parents can help their teens reset their screen time by giving them boundaries and parameters and helping them understand why too much screen time might not be helpful for them and might keep them from other activities that could be more enriching for them.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, how do autoplay and these algorithm-driven feeds and all these different apps at home, when they're doing this at home, impact student focus and mental health at school?
I've seen so many of these autoplay and algorithm driven feeds at home and how it might impact student mental health at school. And it gets kids almost in a zombie state. And then you really see a change in behavior. So if we can put these parameters on them and help them see, okay, let's just stop at this one video. What do you want to watch? Okay, let's watch one and move on. I think that would really help with student focus.
Excellent. Yeah, so true. So good. Okay, final question. What's one sign that a teen's video app usage is shifting from entertainment to possibly addiction?
Something I've seen that can be a sign for a teen's video app use shifting from that entertainment to addiction is when you really see a shift in mood. If you're taking away something from them, if you're like, hey, it's time to put that away, and then you see an anger response or some other sort of response that is almost exaggerated, then we know that we're shifting from entertainment to addiction.
Very well said, Doctor. You took a lot of time out of your busy week to spend time with us for our audience. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you, Josh. I had such a great time. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. To all of our audience, remember, it's all about those dialogue starters that keep your kiddos safe so they can be successful. What does success look like? It looks like us making sure that your kid someday is shining online. And one of the best ways to do that is to remember that they're modeling everything you do. Let's remember to post in a way that's light, bright, and polite, because they often look to us as their ultimate teachers at home in how to behave, whether it's at school, at home, or outside of our house. Thanks to all of our audience. We really appreciate you here at Smart Social, and we're rooting for you if your kids roll their eyes, because that means you're probably doing the tough parenting you need to do to help your kids become resilient in the future. We'll see all of you on the next episode. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for spending time with the smartsocial.com podcast. If today's insights were useful, please share the episode with a fellow parent or educator and subscribe so you never miss our next conversation. And parents, make sure to join one of our next live online events each week to keep your family safe and also enter for a chance to win cool prizes. You can learn more at smartsocial.com. I'm your host, Josh Ochs, and parents, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite because your kids are watching what you're doing online. I'll see you on the next episode.